Good afternoon to all of you. Today I'm here to give my icebreaker speech, and although I would like to talk a lot, I think I'll stick to a few stories today. And instead of me telling you what I think of myself, I will go ahead and tell you what a couple of people I know might tell you if you ever met them. So the best person to start with would be my dad. This is what he might say. I always thought I was a stickler for punctuality, but my daughter was one step ahead. Her school began at 9 a.m., but she had to be there at 8 a.m. For some reason, she had to be the first person to reach school every single day. This would create a lot of confusion in the mornings. Most days, she would be early on time. Some days, she would be late. The minute she realized she was late, there was a lot of tantrums and yelling and screaming. And to give it a good finishing touch, she would actually roll over in front of the house. I think that's pretty unique. Because of one of these frenzied mornings, she skipped her breakfast and she went to school. So she would walk back home for lunch. So I hear from my wife that one of these times she went back home crying because she thought she had a heart attack. That's a big joke in the family even today. I think what my dad forgets here is that things have changed now, and I'm not all that punctual. I've actually managed to be late for a couple of Toastmasters meetings. So that's something new. Here's what my roommate might tell you if you met her. I thought she was possessed. We both were from different places. We didn't know anyone else in the university, so we decided to become roommates. So the first night, new place, I was woken up by this chanting. I was a little scared. I'm a firm believer in ghosts and spirits. I didn't want to take my chances. I stayed under covers and kept asking, "Are you awake? Are you talking?" There was no answer. After a few seconds into this nonsense, I realized she was just talking in her sleep. Thankfully, she wasn't possessed. But one thing we both did enjoy was binge eating. We both had convinced ourselves that we could go ahead and consume all the calories we wanted before an exam. They don't really count, do they? So that's what we did, and we've managed to down several packets of chocolate chip cookies, among other things. So the next person you might meet would be my project partner from grad school. This was my second sem at grad school. I didn't know many people in my class, and we were supposed to pick people to do our projects with. So I had heard this one girl was quiet, kept to herself, and was hardworking. And so I approached her and thought it was a good fit. So we both decided to become project partners. Things were good initially. She was quiet, doing her work. But this was just the beginning. I think feels like a distant memory now. I can't remember her being quiet at all these days. Every time we meet, there is a lot of chatter, and all the nice long quiet walks we had around campus, they're now replaced by her talking and her jumping. I've learned to zone myself out. I think it's a good one to do. Finally, I think what would be interesting is my cousin's perspective. She would probably say this. So my cousin isn't really much of a bully, but she was my big bully brother's assistant. We used to play this game as kids where all of us were thieves, and somehow in the beginning of the game, my brother would always decide that I had to die, and my assistant, the cousin, would go along with it, and I would be dead in the first few minutes, and they would continue playing. Not just this. In India, everybody plays cricket, whether you're a girl or a boy. So we would play cricket, the three of us, and every time this cousin of mine would make sure her ball went away a few blocks, and I would be the poor soul to go and fetch it every single time. So, but we did have some good times together. I think the long summers of sitting together and reading books, but this was more of a race. We would pile up books along our sides, and we would try to complete it first. There was one particular summer where we actually finished a lot of Nancy Drew books. I'm not sure if all of you have heard of it. One last thing I would like to say is we are both very popular at weddings. I think it's mainly because you will find us by the bride and the groom through the wedding. So we would always stand there next to them, smiling foolishly at the cameras. We still do that, but I think we make it less obvious these days. So these are the few stories I wanted to share. Of course, I will share a few more for the next few meetings. Thank you.